take a look at it. It's in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 28, and boom, there it is. It says, anyone who has been stealing must steal no longer, but must work, doing something useful with their own hands, that they may have something to share with those in need. Now, I'm going to ask you guys to join me in a moment of complete transparency and honesty, okay? So it's going to be very awkward for everybody. How many of you have ever stolen something in the past? Okay, the rest of you are liars, not being thieves, because we've all stolen something. Come on, you know, some of us have been those guys. You went through your mom's purse when she wasn't home, and at least that's what Corey told me. And others of you were stealing loose change from other people when you could shake someone down if you were bigger than them. You've stolen stuff from work, right? And why is it so quiet in here? All the time. No, I'm Pastor. I'm a born Christian. And you know, you've stolen stuff. You were in a car. You were, you know, it was this is how old I am. You saw a cassette. It had like Sly and the Family Stone. Oh my God! Boy, this kid's. Maybe you stole an 8-track if you're really old. We've all stolen something from somebody, something that wasn't ours, and we stole it because we wanted it. Some of us stole it just because we could take it. You stole something just to break it. You ever done that? Because someone else had it and they were happy you stole it so you could just bust it up. In fact, you busted it up in front of them to show them, this is how much I want you to be in agony. Or like, if you can't have it, none of us should either. So you stole it. And whenever you read a verse like this, I think we often think that, well, I'm past stealing. You know, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, you know, I don't steal anymore. But have you thought about sometimes some of the relationships you have where it's really kind of a consuming relationship, where you are the one that is the taker, and you're constantly taking from your other relationships? Or can we put that in the category of stealing? Can we put that in the category of just taking for ourselves only? When you think about stealing, do you ever think about, other people? You know, before I married Lilia, as some of you know, we had 34 years this July. And so the fact that you applaud that is really amazing, because it's Lilia did the heavy lifting, and then you know. And so to celebrate, she went to Paris and left me behind. By the way, as 34 years sounds like a long time, right? I mean, we used to joke, man, I didn't know you were going to live this long. I don't know if I would have said I do, you know. But hey, this morning, we have a couple here. 64 years is their anniversary today. Where's your folks? Where are they? Could you guys just stand up for a quick second? Thank you for being such an example of faithfulness and love to devotion to one another. That's amazing. But I used to say before I married Lilia, all's fair in love and war, right? If you can break up a relationship, you figure, well, you know, apparently she wasn't that committed. Why should he be happy? Some of you have stolen other people's hearts, loves. You've stolen, if you work in a corporate environment, maybe not even that large, you've actually stolen opportunities because someone else shouldn't have that. Since if they got that opportunity to shine and to do well, you would look like, I don't know, less as a person. So you steal credit for projects that you really didn't complete or do. You've stolen ideas that weren't yours. You've stolen opportunities that someone else could have had, and you don't even really want it. It's just that you don't want someone else to have it. So can we just agree that in some level most of us are takers in some places, and then worst of all, we steal trust from other people? Some of you have had conversations with, as I've said before in the past, what someone says to me about another person tells me more about them than the other person. What I mean is, if you are basically a dishonest person, you assume most people are dishonest. If you are a sensual, lustful, kind of physical, that's your mindset, you assume everybody else is like you. But on the reverse side, if you're a trusting, giving, generous person, you just think everybody else is as well. And then you found out that most people are not. And so they've stolen also your trust as well. And those folks are almost like, it's almost, do you know those people in your circle of friends? They move from one person to the other. They suck them dry of whatever they can suck them dry of. Maybe it's compassion and empathy. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's trust. Maybe it's just a listening ear. And once that person, let's say it's Delfino and I, once Delfino realizes that I'm done, like I just can't do it anymore, he just like unhooks and then goes in and connects to somebody else and then sucks them dry. And so you just move on. And so you're a taking kind of person. You steal. And so that verse, that short little proverb, that short little guideline that Paul wrote to this church seems like it only has to do with people that are not working or not providing for themselves and are living off the generosity of other people. So see how Paul says this. If you're, instead of not working, work, right? That's a start. For yourself, so you're no longer, taking from some other people. And then he says, and then be able to give to others. So he covers, it's not just get a job, take care of yourself, but then move over to generosity where you're able to give to others. And so that principle works the same in every area. Are you the kind of person that in the past took relationships? Well, be a person that actually builds healthy ones, that you are a healthy person to be in a relationship with, but then you can give to others in a healthy way relationally, and teach others how to have healthy relationships. The principle works in every area of your life. It's not just financial. And I also realize that whenever, I don't think we do this twice a year. We do it once. We don't talk about money here because we don't need to. The reason why we don't need to is that all of you have been so generous to this community. And many of you, besides being generous with your money, you also show up early to do work here in this building. You give up your time. You give your home up. You give food. You give coffee. You host people in your house so that folks will step just a little bit closer, just inching closer, just one more link closer to a connection to God through Jesus Christ. You're generous. This is not about us giving more money. So especially if you're visiting today, I'm telling you, we just don't talk about this because we don't have to. This is one area that seems like we got that pretty well done. Now, when we started this conversation, we had 3 points. We talked about gratitude, wholeness, and then generosity. And we stated that if a man or a woman practices gratitude, you begin to, it almost releases other virtues in your life. And some of you, if you're sitting here thinking, well, I have to be grateful for, my life kind of sucks right now, it's like a Uber. And you'll get that later. It sucks, like a vacuum cleaner, that's the joke. Like, oh, good, thank you for joining us. And so you're thinking, look, if you can hear me, you can hear. Have you ever thanked God just the fact that you can hear? How many of you, you dig music? You just put on Bose headphones or something expensive, and you're like, just me? Okay. So I often thought, even just last night, I was thinking about just stuff to be grateful for. I thought, my God, if I couldn't hear music, dang, that would be missing. That would be a big part of my life that's gone. Many of you like watching films. You can see. Many of you, even if you don't have the nicest car in the world, you walked. You had legs to move. I mean, if you just shift your head into thinking in terms of gratefulness, there's so much to be grateful for. And here's what happens. It doesn't change reality. It changes the reality of you. That's the biggest problem. When we think that all the problems are out here, the reason why we're not happy are out here, you've misunderstood. All the reasons why you're unhappy and sometimes a horrible human being is in the inside. And one way to begin to clean that out is practicing gratitude, which leads to wholeness, that you become a whole human being. And when you're a whole human being, healthy, then it seems like it's natural to practice generosity. Why? Because you realize that life is not a zero-sum game. You realize there's more to you than you need to hold on to. And every time I see this, Whenever somebody's afraid to give, well, I just gave it away, it's fear. When someone doesn't give love, when someone doesn't give up themselves, when someone doesn't give up their resources, when someone doesn't give their money, it's always fear that they won't have enough for themselves. And so at some level, and let's just keep that on a non-religious conversation. When you do not give, there's a fear that's holding you back because you think that you won't have enough for yourself. Now, if you're a follower of Jesus and you believe in an immaterial spiritual world, you're also saying, and I don't trust you to manage my life either. And so I have to take care of it. I mean, I know you run the universe, but my life is complex, and so I don't trust you to handle that. I can only trust myself to handle that. And so gratitude begins to see everything as a gift, and we talked about how simple it is just to give 1% more than we're taking to lead to positive momentum. There was I shared with you a story of how I began to learn gratitude. You're taking a bus into Los Angeles, passing by Skid Row for about a year, in the morning, in the evening, in the morning, in the evening, and gradually but surely, and it was embedded in me, and I'm glad that I don't have an issue of being, well, I haven't arrived, but I'm grateful for so much more in my life, having seen how other people live, and the fact that how other people suffer, and how the people, go without. So when my wife and I, or I'm with friends and we pray over our meal, I mean it. Like, I have food to eat. It's just with rancheros tonight, but it's just Cheerios, but I'm eating tonight in a house, and I get to sleep on the bed instead of the floor. And I may not have a big screen TV, but I have my iPad on my chest. It's pretty big when it's that close. There's so many people that, your act of generosity, please understand that sometimes your act of generosity releases goodness for generations that you'll never know about. I know a woman who years ago when she was a small child, she probably lived in a hospital, but she didn't. She spent probably 3 to 5 years of her life in a hospital. Constant surgeries, constant reparation. Just there was a mess going on in there. And she remembers that there was a small boy whose parents would also visit him. Her family was a little bit poor, so they weren't always around. And so there at Children's Hospital in LA, she remembers how these people would come visit their son. And then as time happened, the boy got better and went home. But here's the amazing part. That family of the small boy came back to visit her. For months. Months. And years later, when she was in her 40s, we were talking about our spiritual journeys and heritages, and we were wondering, I wonder who that first person was that prayed for us. Who was that first follower of Jesus? And an act of generosity, kindness, they go, wow, that guy is really a horrible person. I need to pray for him, and he needs God. That brother needs help. Who was it? And she began to remember. It's that family. As bits and pieces of her memory came back together, how they acted, what they said, how they prayed. And if it wasn't for that person's act of generosity, Lilia wouldn't be here. She wouldn't have gone to India to care for the women out there. She wouldn't have married me. This church wouldn't be here, I'm convinced. Had that family, back in the 60s, not invested in an act of generosity in Lilia's life. We were at the hotel. How many of you remember the hotel? Radisson? Yep. Right? Yeah, like, they wanted to bring it back. Mistakes were made, all right? Mistakes were made. And, it was fun. Some of you came to our church at the hotel, like, I miss the hotel. Go back there, George. But we were at the hotel, the conference room, and it was a nightclub. It was funky. It was salmon colored and just weird. And there were so many people who went out of their way to make it as nice as possible for all of you to enjoy and for us to continue having gatherings. There was a man who came once early in the morning. He didn't even come to our church, but he knew about us. And he brought a stage that he had made. And it just elevated like 8 inches to kind of lift the band up so that people could see the band. It just had a bit more of a professional stage, vibe, and painted it, and it was a surprise. And we had a budget, and we tried to, keep to and all that. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't remember getting any kind of notice that he was going to buy the money for the wood and the paint and the labor. Well, I think that's right, This is a big cost. But hey, so brother. Hey, how much do we owe you for all this? And there's this, the material, and he really said to me, he looked at me and I go, oh no, it was like a throwaway comment. It was like, oh yeah, it's hot outside. It wasn't any kind of, yeah, look at me, I'm an amazing person. He said, oh, don't worry about it. Tammy and I didn't eat certain food this month, took it out of our grocery bill to buy this for you guys. And so when I look at a man like Dave Otto, who gave this amazing gift of generosity to us, just so that all of us could enjoy and the experience of a gathering here better. I think this is a man who exhibits generosity. He sees life as an act of service and giving to other people. He's completely whole, completely grateful, and an amazing man. There was a a fella that I sometimes get confused with. Sometimes they think I'm him, sometimes they think I'm his brother. And it's been an ongoing joke on and off for a while. As some of you know, I take my health care as seriously as I take my physical fitness. The strict diet that I maintain. And how often I go to the doctors, how often I go to the gym, maybe once a year. But I work out seriously when I go there. And so I went on a hot July night at 10:30 at night, because I didn't want to make sure no one was using the equipment. Get my reps out. Put on some plates, throw some serious lead around. Actually, there are erasers on the pencils, but still, the point is that. So I'm walking out, and this guy, who is an internationally known author, a public speaker, runs a large church, and there's nothing I can do for him. There's really nothing I can do for him that's going to add to his life like he needs. It's, oh, thank you for doing this for me. If you had not done this, I would have gone without. He pulls me aside to say, hey, I know that this is Whittier's a town that you love, and what can I do to make this happen for you? What if I lend you my name and the church's name, and we work together and we start something together in Whittier? And so Erwin McManus, who I knew him. We had crossed paths a little bit. We both went to the same directions. Sometimes they would give me his clothes. That's how weird it got. This is not mine. Zipped in the back. That's weird. I like it. It's frilly, but it's... I'm going to do a picture of that right now. Which one are you picturing of, Erwin or me? So Erwin, starts to invest his time, invites me into his home, invites me into his life. And he said, hey bro, can we pay you to do what you're doing? Yeah, of course. So, and by the way, since we're paying you, we don't want you to work any harder. Spend time with your wife. Enjoy life. You've been doing this for a while and you're still doing it. We're not paying you to work harder. We're just paying you as a thank you. Hey, aren't you able to go to school? Why don't you go to school? Why don't you become this other person that I think you can become? So if you've received any benefit from this community, if there's something of value that you took away here, if Mosaic Whittier is your home, understand that Erwin McManus lived out a life of generosity and invested in me. And here we are. See, generosity isn't about money. It's just about a life of giving. Luke chapter 19, verses 1 through 10. Luke 19, 1 through 10. So Jesus enters Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus, and he was a chief tax collector, and he was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. By the way, I just so you know, just one of those goofy little side facts, the average height of a first century Middle Eastern man, what do you think? 5'5"? 5'2". Now here's the thing I'm thinking. And he could not see over the crowd. I'm just, what? How? Here you go. How short was he? Every time I read that, I think about the average height is 5'2". All right. That's it. That's the only insight I have. So he ran ahead and climbed the sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up at him and said, "Zacchaeus, come down from there immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. And when people saw this, they began to say, "Wow, Jesus, yikes, he doesn't know anything. He's going to be the guest of a sinner." Dun, 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 dun. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, before you come to my house, look, here and now, I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I've cheated anyone out of anything," please, bro, come on. "I'm going to pay him back 4 times the amount." Stop there. This says a lot about who he is as a Jewish man, because this is the code in Deuteronomy for paying back what you've taken. 4 times. See, the penal, the justice system of the Old Testament, unlike many in any country, was restorative, not punitive. The idea was to make the other person whole again. "We'll pay him back 4 times the amount." Verse 9. So Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is the son of Abraham." Stop for a second. I've heard this misrepresented so many times, I want to make sure that you guys don't get this either. Do not connect these 2 dots incorrectly. Jesus is not saying that because he gave, he earned this sort of relationship with God, salvation as a gift, all that. Scriptures clearly teach that our connection to him, forgiveness of sins, salvation, born again, all the languages you want to call it, is God's gift to us. You can't buy it, you can't earn it. But what Jesus is saying is that this is obvious, something has changed in this man, because now he's giving instead of taking. Verse 10. "For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." There is it's not that complicated, this talk. It's just, we need to be those people who are generous for the sake of others. Let me place it in another way, and then we're going to begin to close this gathering up. You are sitting here because you believe that you're connected somehow to the invisible God of the universe. I mean, when you explain it to somebody, it almost sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it? I'm connected to the God of everything, the everywhere Spirit, the creator of the universe, the Lord, Father God. Or you're sitting here hoping that this is true. Someone invited you and okay, I'll try this because nothing else has worked, and I'm sensing there's something missing. Maybe this is it. And I'm convinced it is for you, sir or madam. If you're looking for God, I'm convinced he's already been looking for you. And that sense of your search is him calling you in. But one of the ways that we reflect our Father is to be people who are generous. And that's simply an action that you take. But if you try to I'm going to start being generous. I'm going to start just giving. And skip gratitude and skip the holiness phase, this generosity just becomes religious and frustrating. And you'll stop. Because it's no longer life-giving. It feels like you're trying to run hard just to pretend to be somebody you're not. If you're not in a place where you can be generous, go back to square one and practice gratitude. Because here, look, our world needs us to be the men and women we can be. But we need you to be a healthy human being more than we need your money, time, coffee, your house, your service. Get healthy, practice gratitude, become whole, and practice generosity. Now, as you recall, when we finished the first track, we gave out A dog tag as a reminder, the quest for courage is the quest for honor. The quest for generosity is the quest of nobility. So we're going to begin to hand out these tags to you. Hopefully you guys brought in your chain? Yes? No? Yes, thank you. The one lady who did. That's great. So for you, Janine, since you brought your chain, oh, there you are. You're wearing it now. Look at you. Okay. If you did not bring your chain, first of all, shame on you. We don't want you back here very good. You've disgraced us one too many times. We're done with you. If you have your chain at home and you put this tag on it as a reminder, please put it in an obvious place to remind yourself as to who the person is you want to become. We're going to hand out these tags now. If you absolutely need a chain, you can see Janine at the connect table that she'll get you one, make sure that you got it. Finally, as we get close to the close here, would you take out these cards for a second? They were on your seat as we practice generosity. So what are some practical steps, some actual, boots on the ground, practical things to do to practice generosity? Some of you may already know that. Okay, you know what, I'm going to rake the leaves of my neighbor's yard. They're kind of old or they're busy, they can't do it. I might take my friend's dog for a walk because she's busy, they're busy. Maybe help somebody wash their car, do their shopping for them. How about this one on the back of the card? Contribute your time and or talent to a humanitarian project. Some of you give blood regularly. You got your gallon pin or your 5-gallon pin. That's great. How about if you volunteer maybe an hour a week at the local Red Cross here in Whittier? Or another charitable organization that does good that you trust. Number 2. Commit to giving 10% of your income to the church. So let me say this about that. If you don't, that's fine. If you don't trust us enough, that's okay. It really is. But give somewhere 10% to an organization that you do believe and trust in. The two that come to mind quickly are Charity Water, for the good work that they do, and your local Red Cross, or the Red Cross here in Whittier. But if this is your home, if this is what you feel is, this place has benefited your life and you would like to see this work continue, give here. Number 3, buy a meal for somebody. Hey, you don't have to make it a big deal. Just invite them out. Don't let them know. If they order a steak, maybe make it the next meal. Oh, take it to Norm's, $6.49. Right? Hard to go wrong with that steak. Well, actually, you can't go wrong. But it's Norm's. What do you want? We're open. I tell you what happened one time. I got served my meal. I stood up. It was my eyes watered. I started to gag. It was just. I stood up. You should sit down. It's supposed to taste that way. Okay. Final thing before the band comes up to close us off and we take our offering. They don't know that I'm going to do this, so I love embarrassing people. This is perfect. My wife's not here, so they get to be the target. Hey, Steve and Janice, would you stand up for a quick second? Yeah, look at your eyebrows. Let's give a round of applause. Just stand up for a second. Awesome. Yeah, just stay standing just a little bit longer. There you go. Okay. If you don't know this couple, you're missing out. They are amazing, gifted, loving, godly, great people. They've been part of Mosaic now for 2-3 weeks. How long? How many years? All of Mosaic. 28 years? Wow. Let's give a round of applause for that. And during that time, a lot of your work, full-time and volunteer time, has been a department of work called Beyond Us. Can you briefly tell us what Beyond Us is about?
Beyond Us is a team of people from the church that come together to help the whole community in the church serve the world through not just giving of money, but through prayer and through using our skills and our talents to go overseas in a short-term team to serve communities that are developing across the world. And we want to not just give financially, but to give in ways that develop the people so they can help develop the community and not remain just a developing country, but to become a country that's whole and generous, and that we can have a relationship with.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sharon. Currently, we have a number of families long-term overseas and also short-term. Next year, we are tentatively planning a short-term trip to India and to Italy. So the food is amazing in either country. Let me just say that. So this morning, and Steve and Janice don't know this, and none of you knew this as well, but every penny we collect today, this morning, every dollar, your checks, your online giving, we're giving it to Beyond Us. And we want you guys to be encouraged with the work that you're doing. So that you see, as you see fit for those funds to be released to different families who are working overseas or where they should be invested in. Hey, you know what? We love and trust you so much. We realize that this is the best investment we can make with those resources. So today, if you want to write something extra, feel free. You can just put it Mosaic. You don't have to put anything else like Beyond Us, because everything we collect today is going to go to the Beyond Us work for work that we support overseas around the world. Because see, the message of Jesus makes a difference and it matters. And it matters here in this zip code. It matters even in the 909s. It matters around the world. It matters everywhere. Even in Orange County. Who knows what God can do there? And we will trust God for our needs because He knows what we need, and we're fine. Continue to pray for building, whereas we continue to search now, starting in the 20s, looking at different places to meet, because we do need a home. Other than that, let's go ahead and collect our offering now, so if you have a chance to write your checks and separate that up. Once again, as a reminder, everything that we collect this morning will go to Beyond Us, which is the work around the world that Mosaic is doing, long-term, short-term missionary work. And let's just pray as we continue to worship God through our giving.